Chapter 3. The Moon and the Morning After. The morning light felt intrusive, a sharp contrast to the soft, velvet shadows of the night before. I woke up with a phantom sensation of Orlando's hand holding mine, a lingering warmth that made the sunlight streaming through the blinds seem more inviting than usual. I wanted to sink back into a deep slumber. I must have been dreaming of him, and the dream felt more real than the quiet room around me. Before my feet even hit the floor, I reached for my phone. It was a compulsion, a physical need to verify that he was a real breathing man and not just a product of my post lockdown desperation turned into a vivid hallucination. I opened social media, my thumb hovering over the search bar with a slight tremor. Orlando. The result appeared immediately, and my heart skipped a beat. We were already friends. I stared at the screen, scrolling through a few of his photos. There were rugged landscapes and unfinished structures, skeletons of buildings showing the raw, honest progress of his jobs. Then, a single shot of him looking out at the ocean, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the gray horizon. I had no memory of ever adding him, no memory of a request. Perhaps we had mutual friends who had bridged the gap, or perhaps fate had just been waiting for me to notice. But as I scrolled, I noticed something else. So many of his friends were women. Seeing that, I felt a flash of something sharp and stinging. I felt almost foolish. Maybe Sarah was right, I thought, a cold shiver tracing my spine. Maybe he's a pro. Maybe he's been watching from the periphery, waiting for the right moment to strike, like he's done with so many other women before. All talk and all game until he wins the conquest and turns his predatory eyes toward the next female target. But the jolt and the electricity of the night before was louder than the warning Sarah gave. The attraction I felt was stronger than my fear. I wanted the connection I'd felt in that kitchen. It was a weird, safe feeling, like home. There was a recognition when we looked at one another. I am not used to feeling so seen. To be known by another human and to see them be so delighted with my presence. I think that's what is at the heart of romance. Isn't that what we all want? The concept of home had always been a foreign concept to me. My family moved constantly when I was a kid, drifting from one rental to the next, never staying long enough for me to feel like I belonged to the soil beneath my feet or to make friends. Neither of my parents really wanted to know about my life. What was expected of me was to be a good kid, but I learned early that they only ever used that label when I was silent, when I didn't talk to them or ask for anything at all. My father worked and my mother stayed at home, but she wasn't there for me. My sister was her favorite. Those two did everything together, a closed circle I was never invited to. When my parents split up, I was a teen and I chose to stay with my dad. It was too depressing to stay and watch my little sister get everything she wanted, while I, the older sister, was lucky to get her hand me downs or even a glimmer of a nice word. My father's house wasn't a warm home, it was cold. He worked from 2 p.m. to midnight, so I was alone nearly all the time. Latchkey kids was the term used to describe kids of my generation, those of us who went home to an empty space. Unfortunately, I have always been on trend. When he was home, he was hot tempered, and every spark of anger was fueled by how much things cost. Every drop of milk needed to be finished from every glass poured, or I'd deal with his wrath. Money was all Dad cared about. That was clear. But it was easier to navigate than the isolation of feeling alone while in a room with my sister and mother. Through high school and college, I had friends, and I knew everything about them. I was very sure that they didn't really know very much about me. I never felt truly understood or like I belonged unless I was useful. My whole life, I felt like that little girl dreaming of a romance between a prince and a princess, not for the crown, but for the shared life, someone to know me. I have always been a good listener. Hearing and seeing patterns in everyone else's relationships throughout my life has shown me patterns that appear through the stages of a relationship, common themes of resentment, overcompensation, loose boundaries, or no boundaries. And watching these themes play out has made me a great person to talk to. I am notoriously a truth teller, mixing my knowledge through the lived history of others with my direct communication approach. But when it comes to the matters of my own heart, I find sometimes I can't see past my own wall. The odd time I am asked personal questions, it feels like someone is trying to intrude rather than care. The romantic relationship I'd had, the ones we could consider serious, were fun, but they weren't fulfilling. Eventually, I'd become resentful because they didn't understand me, even if the evidence they had tried was obvious. When they would tell me I was too much, too emotional, too much energy, loved too much, cared too much, worked too much, paid too much attention to them, I would give up. The odd thing was that being too much always left me feeling like I wasn't enough. But the way Orlando looked at me, I finally felt hopeful, like maybe I had a place to land. I bypassed the social media apps and went straight to the source. I searched his business website. It was simple, understated, almost amateurish for a man of his professional caliber. I recognized some of the buildings in his portfolio from his social media page. I had even been in some of them. In fact, one of them was my neighbor's house. I digress. There it was, his cell phone number. I didn't hesitate. We were both direct people, a trait that had been a problem in my past. Too blunt, too honest for people who preferred the comfort of their own lies they told themselves. But with him, honesty felt like the only way to exist. Even though we had just met, I felt like he really saw who I am. I felt like he wouldn't want me to be anything other than myself. It has taken me until this big age to realize I have wanted someone who would fan my flame, not try to dampen it. It was nice to see you last night, I texted, my fingers steady. You're a smart man to ask me to dinner. I will accept your invite when you tell me when and where. I type in a winky emoji. The reply came 3 minutes later. I have never been accused of holding back when I see something I want, Delilah. I'll find a place. I think we're going to get along just fine. He answered right away. No, who is this? Or even a confirmation that it was me. Maybe he already had me saved in his phone somehow. My number is pretty public. Maybe he was searching me up at the same time, I was searching for him online. I smiled at the screen, the directness of it setting into my bones like a familiar weight I'd never known. He didn't play games, and neither did I. I knew that I knew him. My instincts are never totally wrong. They are always at least a little bit correct. But also, I have never been so drawn to a man in my entire life. Not so instantly, not with so much conviction. It was unsettling. Later that evening, after the sun had dipped below the horizon, the world turned a deep, bruised purple, with some orange lingering at the edge, nature showing off a bit. My phone buzzed again. Go outside, the message read. Look at the moon. It's full tonight. I stepped out onto the porch, the air crisp and smelling of cedar and salt. The moon was a massive glowing orb hanging heavy in the sky, casting a silver path across the world. It felt like a tether. I'm looking, I replied. Good, Orlando wrote back. When you look up at the moon, think of me. You will never have to wonder if I'm thinking of you too. I am. I stood there for a long time, the sentimental weight of his words blooming in my chest like a fire. He was sentimental yet commanding. I could already see the next chapters of my life playing out. I was absolutely certain that I was exactly where I was meant to be last night. Our first glances at each other felt so warm, comforting, and captivating. It felt like we had already lived lifetimes together, and we were finally just waking up in this one.